All right, we're going to wait about 30 seconds and we will get started. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to learn about how you can manage commercial real estate with STRATAFOLIO and QuickBooks. The webinar is being recorded and we will send out this recording within 2 business days to everyone who's registered for the webinar. But during the webinar, please feel free to ask questions through the chat, and Lindsay Jakubovic, who is our marketing manager, she will be monitoring and will address those questions at the very end. But please do not hold back. Ask your questions while the question is at the top of your mind. If it's on your mind, it probably is on someone else's, so please ask away. And we do want to hear from you, so watch for some polls throughout this and let's make this fun. All right. So just a quick bit about me. I am the co-founder and CEO of STRATAFOLIO. STRATAFOLIO is an online software solution designed to help commercial real estate owners optimize their real estate portfolio management and use QuickBooks. And we do all of this specifically for people who own and manage commercial real estate, like shopping centers, offices, industrial, really anything with a multi-year lease, which is probably what is interesting everyone that's requested to join this webinar. My co-founder, Uriel Barillas, and I founded the company because as real estate owners ourselves, we recognize just how underserved and fragmented the commercial real estate market is. And if you're not at an enterprise level, it's even more difficult. So we decided to build STRATAFOLIO. Here's what we see happening in the real estate industry. And this is probably not a surprise to you, but we see pain. Owners are forced to hobble together disjointed programs and spreadsheets with the hope of trying to get them all to work seamlessly together. We see owners using tools that we refer to as residential first products. And by this, we mean those tools that serve that residential or multifamily property management sector, and they do it well. But dealing with that commercial multi-year leases is an entirely different animal. And those residential first tools just don't hit the mark. So people end up exporting data and doing some of the work manually. And most people don't realize there is just another option out there that's specifically focused on commercial real estate. And we see owners spending weeks every month on manual tasks like lease escalations, gathering information, updating rent rolls, camera reconciliation, and 100 other little things, but doing it all manually. And finally, we see owners completing double the work by not using a software that integrates directly with QuickBooks. So how many different systems and spreadsheets are you using to manage your commercial real estate business? We want to hear from you. So we're going to share a poll. Many of the features we have developed at STRATAFOLIO have come directly as a result of us talking to our customers and seeing the spreadsheets they were managing. We often hear about the many spreadsheets teams are using to track everything from leases to COI to loans. Plus, there's the multiple QuickBooks files and documents and stored files and cabinets and drives. And what happens is when these owners are using all these different systems to run their commercial real estate business, it ends up creating all kinds of manual work because you're transferring data from one system to another. And the most important facts that you've just memorized in your head or you think you've memorized, it becomes really dangerous because not everyone has memorized everything. So each one of these red X's represents time and revenue lost. And so what are the dangers of doing it this way? First, there's no direct connection to QuickBooks. I'm sorry here for a second. Oops. And so you end up doing double entry, which then creates all kinds of space for manual error because the tools don't speak to one another. And finally, there's lost time that could be spent on value add growth activities and there's lost income from mistakes or lost time from not bringing in more deals. Okay, Lindsay, what did we have for poll result?
Sorry, I was muted there. So the question that we asked in the poll is, how many different systems and spreadsheets are you using to manage your commercial real estate? And the overwhelming response was between 1 and 5 different systems and spreadsheets.
All right, not surprising. Thank you. Okay. So how do you run an efficient commercial real estate business? You need to find a tool that pays your employees, tracks time, connects to a good accounting system, tracks real estate specific correctly, and then you need to find qualified people who know the system. And those are some of the benefits of using STRATAFOLIO and QuickBooks together. With STRATAFOLIO, you have multiple entities or multiple P&Ls or financial statements, however you want to think about it. And we're able to consolidate and normalize that data for a quick and easy view. We manage all of the critical lease dates, and you're able to invoice effortlessly across all of those company files while still taking into account your lease escalation, CAM, common area maintenance, which we will talk about later, becomes so much easier. And if you're using QuickBooks, it is much easier to find someone who knows and understands that. Now, what QuickBooks helps with is they help with dashboards, reporting, budgets by class, cash flow planning for any time you acquire a new property, and they can do the timesheets and payroll. And budgeting and forecasting in QuickBooks, lots of customers want this in our app, but QuickBooks offers this right now in the advanced setting. So together, STRATAFOLIO combined gives you a total commercial property management solutions. And in the next few slides, we're going to highlight new features or features that will illustrate this very point. I'd like to share with you a real example that we've encountered. As the property manager of a commercial building, Mark had to deal with CAM reconciliation every year, which he generally didn't get to until March or April. One year, a tenant disputed the charges, claiming that some expenses were not related to common area maintenance. Mark had to spend hours reviewing those lease agreements and invoices, and even had to involve a lawyer to resolve the dispute. This experience made him realize how challenging CAM reconciliation is. But even more, he realized the risk and cost associated when it is not handled correctly. And what created this dispute really were two things: poor bookkeeping and a lack of a system. With STRATAFOLIO, we work with your team to clearly identify the reimbursable expenses associated with CAM reconciliation. These categories are fully configurable based on what you typically include in your CAM and are based on your chart of accounts as well. And then we calculate CAM based on that tenant's pro rata share. These categories are displayed here. There's CAM, insurance, and taxes. And since our main focus is commercial real estate, we understand you need to have flexibility regarding your operating expenses. We know that as much as you would like to standardize every single lease to one format, it is simply not possible. Every tenant is going to negotiate different things, and when you bring in a big box store, you will more than likely have to adapt to their lease structure. With our product, we get that, and you have the ability to configure by tenant. So this CAM category here includes all the common area maintenance expenses specific to your location, as well as your insurance and taxes. You set your budget for your tenant at the beginning of the period, and at any point you can see what is budgeted in relation to the actual. So in this example, we budgeted a little over $109,000, and we have invoiced a bit over $36,000. So if we run reconciliation today, we would owe the tenant about $6,000 because we're running under budget, and we have only spent about $31,000 in expenses. Now, to run a CAM reconciliation report, select the period, and in just one click, you're able to produce a professional-looking CAM reconciliation report that you can share with your tenants. And it looks like this. It has a breakdown of all of the budgeted amounts, the actual, and ultimately what is owed by the tenant or will be credited to the tenant. And you can access the details around this on that second tab here. And all of this is flowing directly from QuickBooks. And ultimately, this provides you a peace of mind, but it's also you will be able to confidently and quickly produce your CAM report shortly after the start of the year or at any time throughout without any double data entry. You get a professional report that is customizable and ready on demand. And finally, this will help you reduce your risk and your potential litigation. But most importantly, you aren't carrying extra expenses and you're not surprising the tenant with the mid-year large catch-up invoice. This is really a win-win all around. Now, lease escalations are really the most common reason people contact us because they missed a lease escalation, usually for months, but sometimes even for years. And yes, we know the tenants did sign a contract, but if both parties have missed it, it really becomes awkward and embarrassing because it also means as the owner, you don't have as good of control over your processes as you want. So not only does this mean missed revenue, but you certainly would not want your lenders or investors to catch wind of this either. These misses potentially open you up for further scrutiny by either party. During the onboarding lease abstraction process that we do, we determine when all of the tenant escalations go into effect for the entire life of the lease. That way, when it's time to invoice, you can easily invoice across all your QuickBooks files with just one single click. And during that invoicing, STRATAFOLIO is pulling that correct lease rate for the month that we're invoicing. We do this for every tenant, every month, with zero manual manipulation. And we have a bi-directional sync with QuickBooks that makes this possible. In this situation, we are prepared to invoice this 16 tenants with their current lease rate and CAM charges across 4 separate QuickBooks files. This really does solve that problem of lease escalation. In addition to that, these owners are also receiving alerts about the escalations that are going into effect as well. Most teams are now familiar with the pain of tracking certificates of insurance and the endless attempts at reaching out. Without question, managing COIs is a truly burdensome process, but it has to be done to protect your company. And it feels like a low value task, and frequently we see that it gets shoved to the back of the line for more pressing needs. We get it. Unfortunately, we have also seen the negative outcome when this process is not managed and tenants accidentally forget to renew their insurance and then a natural disaster occurs. At that point, the owner is caught holding the bag for all repairs. With STRATAFOLIO, we take into account what that lease requires from an insurance perspective, and we attach that information directly to the tenant. And as those policies are coming due, we start sending messages to the tenant and insurance provider about that upcoming policy that is up for renewal. At any time, you can access the tenant insurance view and see every tenant and the status of each insurance requirement and policy. And here you can quickly sort or filter that data so you know exactly where things are and what things you need to take action on. And you can share or export this information with investors, lenders, or insurance providers. With STRATAFOLIO, tracking certificates of insurance on spreadsheets is truly a thing of the past. We are putting that responsibility and accountability directly on the tenants and then keeping you informed should you need to intervene. We only today really focused on 3 well-known management activities that cause disruptions or wasted time and financial loss because of lack of automation. There are certainly many more. But we'd like to show you a real example of the return on investment with STRATAFOLIO and QuickBooks based on the ROI survey results over the last 12 months. The average company spends half an hour per unit per month managing their commercial portfolio. And they're paying that resource an average across the United States of about $43 an hour. And they acknowledge that they have lost $21,000 alone in a year from missed lease escalations. And for the companies in that survey, on average, they identified $55,000 in savings. Our average customer, subscription and boarding are far less than half of that. The system easily pays for itself and provides peace of mind for not only you, but for your lenders as well, who are very closely watching the real estate market and evaluating their risks. Now, to wrap things up here, so why STRATAFOLIO and why QuickBooks Online? There is an intangible ROI with lenders and others. When you're able to rapidly produce reports, answer questions, provide a rent roll, or schedule of real estate or a debt summary report, you become the client that is easy to work with. Your data is trustworthy, and as a result, you are going to experience slightly lower interest rates. We've had more than one lender tell us that exact thing. So whether it's stated overtly or not, you are being judged on the quality of your data and the processes, and there is a cost to that. Two, you get peace of mind because you're no longer having anxiety that you're dropping the ball because of a spreadsheet issue or staffing constraint. And three, the tenants get a better experience all the way around. There's no more awkward conversations about missed lease escalations. They get early and fast CAM reconciliation so the tenant can plan accordingly. Plus, you look professional to your tenant. You're inviting less scrutiny, and your happy tenants are more likely to renew. And we all know that means less cost and hassle with relisting, vacant space, and broker fees. And finally, running a more efficient business will save you money in multiple areas of your business. By having all those files organized in one system, that when we're enforcing a structure and order, you're paying lower fees during tax time because there's no work for your accountant to do. And you can more rapidly share information with your insurance brokers, lenders. There's so many less places for any one of them to guess about how your company is doing. In summary, automation software is a great way to augment your team and become a more efficient especially in an uncertain market like we have now. That brings us to the end of our presentation. So if you're want to learn more about STRATAFOLIO or our bi-directional integration with QuickBooks, contact us for a personalized demo. And be sure to ask about our bundled pricing and special discount for CCIM members. Okay, Lindsay, let's go through a few of the Q&As that have come in. And I know we had some ahead of time.
Yeah, we sure did. We actually had 6 come in ahead of time. And the first one asks, does your system offer tenants online payment capability at little or no cost?
Yes, we do offer that. They can go through the ACH portal and that those tenants can be set up. It's a very low price, 0.05%, a minimum of $1.50 for any transaction.
Great. The second question asks, does STRATAFOLIO also account for leases with caps?
Yes, that is one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of the other products in the market that are residential first products. We take into account those caps, and you can track and do your reconciliation and know when you are approaching that cap so that you don't go past that. And when we do that reconciliation, we will take into account that pro rata and that cap.
Thank you. The third question asks, what property types are supported by STRATAFOLIO?
Yeah, the easiest way to say it is we support anything with a multi-year lease. There's 12 asset classes out there. We will take a single family home if somebody has it in their portfolio, but our primary focus is shopping centers, strip malls, medical, warehouse, industrial, really anything with a multi-year lease is our focus.
Great. The next question asks, is there a fee to convert my data from previous software to STRATAFOLIO?
Yeah, when our sales team talks with your staff, what we will learn is what information and data do you have? And we charge two things. We have a subscription based on the number of units that are in your portfolio. And then the second thing is onboarding. And for that onboarding fee, we base that based on the number of integrations you have, the number of leases, the number of units, and the rent roll information. So we will charge for that activity of taking that information and putting it into STRATAFOLIO.
Thanks, Jeri. The last question asks, does STRATAFOLIO require a contract?
Yes, we do sign an annual contract, and you can choose to pay monthly or annually, but it is a one-year contract.
Great. Well, there is one last poll question that I will launch right now for our participants. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. If anyone does have additional questions, please feel free to reach out. As we mentioned, we will be sending a recording of this out to anyone who attended or was unable to attend. And then through there, you can also schedule some demos, or you can go online here or follow the link on the page here as well. Appreciate everyone's time and attention. Have a great rest of your day.